me start that over real quick. Thank you, everyone, and welcome to the February 16th, 2021 Board of Aldermen meeting. We are going to begin with the minutes of the previous meetings. This is January 19th and February 1st, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve, and it's been seconded. Are there any changes to the previous meeting's minutes? Hearing and seeing none. Would all those in favor please indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. We are on to outside the rail. Do we have members of the community here to address the board on matters not on the agenda? Hearing nothing, we will move ahead to communications from the mayor. Mayor Lair.
Thank you very much. I'm all set tonight. Appreciate it. We'll be following along with the meeting.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor Lair. So we are on to additions and deletions to the agenda. I know that one addition to the agenda we have is Treasurer Markowski sent out her treasurer's report, but we accidentally left it off the agenda. So if we could get a motion to add that to reports and letters from department heads and officials.
So moved. Second.
All right. We have a motion that has been seconded. Would all those in favor please indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. Are there any other additions or deletions to the agenda? All right. One small change I will note is under miscellaneous motions, resolutions, and new business. We have Rutland City and the Otter Creek Irrigation Union District, which was sent out to you. I'm actually going to move that to the top to spare poor Amanda having to sit through what will likely be a significant meeting. I think this should be quick. So if you would all just please turn to pages 7 through 10 of your packet, we will start here with this. And I do believe that Amanda is on the line to sort of speak to us about what she's looking for from the city. So Amanda, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for your time. The RPC has been providing support to the Otter Creek Communications Union District, which is the CUD looking to serve the greater Rutland region. And by serve, I mean ensure that everyone in the region has the ability to access infrastructure, internet infrastructure that provides a minimum 100 download, 100 upload internet connection. And this being critical for the aspects of economic resilience and economic development. There are CUDs established pretty much across the state of Vermont, and CUDs are performing the function of making sure that there is a consumer-focused and oriented entity working to bring the highest quality internet possible. It's not to force that infrastructure on anyone, but to make sure that it's there in the case that someone chooses to pursue that that utility being high-speed internet. The state has a goal of ensuring that there is access across the board for 100 by 2024. And again, the CUD and with support of the RPC at the moment is working to make that happen. CUDs have the same legal organization as a municipality or wastewater district. It is not a taxing entity, and no debt that the CUD may or may not take on is tied to any municipality or any resident. It is solely owned and held by the CUD. The CUD, though, cannot plan to support any build-outs in a municipality without that municipality's approval. And that approval comes through a resolution, which many in the Rutland region have taken on. There's still a few that we're working on. And that is a vote of the select board saying that you join the CUD. And again, joining the CUD purely allows the CUD to plan for your municipality. Again, it does not obligate you to anything, and you can just as easily leave the CUD at any time. But again, the CUD cannot plan to support the municipality without this approval. Ideally, there'd be a representative who'd voluntarily say, hey, I am interested in getting internet, maybe to their own household or whatever it is, but they might attend the occasional board meeting and then they report back to the city. However, I or the chair of the CUD, being Bill Moore from the town of Brandon, can and will happily attend a meeting anytime that we're requested. I can pause right there and see if there are any questions.
Alderman Garuso.
You might be wondering why I'm approaching you. I mean, there is cable throughout Rutland City, but the goal again is 100-100, and most people, it appears, have 4-1 or 25-3. That might be sufficient for a single household without kids and without particular high internet demand. But if you have kids going to school, people trying to run a business at home or just work from home, that's a steep order for definitely almost impossible for 4-1, but very difficult for 25-3. Only apparently approximately 40 addresses have 100-100 or better. So our goal is to change those numbers, but that is the numbers as of 2019 for Rutland City E911 addresses.
Thank you, Amanda. Alderman Garuso.
Yes, Amanda, this is Sam Garuso. I've been in search of this for a long time. The hotspots, are they wired to the hotspot and then wireless to the home or business?
So hotspots are a completely different conversation. We have worked, and it's not just the CUD, but other entities as well, have worked to provide free public hotspots, and that is in essence a very strong Wi-Fi router that a business likely or a library allows people to access, so password free. What this would be likely is going to be fiber that is wired pole to pole, and then when a household or business says they want that service, a line is run to the premise.
Okay.
So fiber to the premise.
Okay. So who would you like as a representative? Anyone or anyone in particular? Someone from...
Someone who will actually attend meetings is great. That's a great place to start. I'm not picky, and I have standards. Don't get me wrong. But really,
someone who understands it, and someone who understands it, right?
That's good. But we also have material to provide the representative that will bring them up to speed.
Because
some degree of interest is good.
I support this, and if the chair wishes to, appoint somebody, I'm in. I will support this tonight. I think it's a great idea. I think we should jump on board.
Thank you, Alderman Garuso. Alderwoman Davis.
Thank you. So when Chair Whip sent this out to us, I sent it back to the city attorney and to the engineer commissioner, because routinely we don't sign on to a resolution. There's a request and it goes through a process, make sure what infrastructure, if any, is being added to the city, what infrastructure, if any, will be disturbed in the city, and then what, if any, agreement is the city held to. So with that said, I am not comfortable just talking about this today. I think the attorney needs to look at it. I think Jim Rotondo needs to weigh in. He was interested in knowing what infrastructure upgrades would take place within the city and where would they occur. So I'm going to move to refer to Community and Economic Development Committee.
All right. It has been seconded by Alderwoman. Is there any further discussion or debate on this question? Alderman Garuso.
Yes, if I could just, I mean, if that's where it goes, that's where it goes. The question would be, if I could ask Amanda, is you're mainly going to be fooling around with telephone poles that the city doesn't own, or I should say fooling around working with telephone poles the city doesn't own, right?
So I also wanted to speak quickly to what Alderwoman Davis just mentioned, and it feeds into your point. Consolidated Communications has $140 million of their own money earmarked for fiber work in Vermont, and recently unofficially announced that they will be building out portions of municipalities in the Rutland region. Rutland City is one of those municipalities. I don't know what poles that they own and have their tech on, but they will be this year starting to run fiber on poles in your municipality and 8 others, and I can list those off if you'd like. So I couldn't tell you right now, with lacking a high-level engineering study, which is something we'll be doing as soon as the legislature figures stuff out on their end, funding-wise. And after that point in time, I would have the information to tell you which poles would be worked on. But at some point in time, any poles that have cable for internet on them, the goal is to have fiber or some technology. I mean, we can't rule out any technology. Again, it's symmetrical, 100-100. That's the goal regardless of tech. So I couldn't tell you right now which poles would be worked on, but just as an FYI, there will be work done starting this year in the city. Not associated with the CUD, that is consolidated.
So a follow-up question would be, if this gets put into committee for 2 weeks or so, will that slow fit you down, or is that okay?
Yeah, it won't hurt anything, and I really do respect due process. This work is going to take a little bit of time. Again, we are going to go as fast as we can, but with regulation and process in hand. So I'll send updates if anything changes, and if for some reason companies decide to actually let us know when they're going to start work, I will happily let you know, but you'll also hopefully know at that point in time as well, because they have been presenting to cities. And to clarify, the CUD does not intend at this point in time to be the provider of internet service. We want to and partner strategically with a company that has the resources and the desire to get the work done, and we would do our best to bring the funds, and maybe if the legislature grants the CUD tax incentives to do that. So you would more likely than not be dealing with the contractor or the ISP that would be doing the work, just to clarify.
So you're a reseller?
I don't know what this form, if it's more likely than not, and this is not official because there's not a contractor identified, so there's been no discussion by the board, no vote by the board, the CUD board. It would be a public-private partnership, and who owns what assets is not yet clear. Could the CUD own the infrastructure and lease it to the ISP? Sure. But is that what it's going to look like? I genuinely could not tell you, because we don't know what the most cost-effective public-private partnership organization looks like, or if a PPP is the most ideal contracting form to pursue. Right now, we're just making sure that we can plan for as many municipalities as possible by informing you of what's going on. And a lot will be happening this year, but 2 weeks or a month in a committee is fine. You can reach out anyone at any time with questions.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Alderman Gillum.
Yeah, I see in the document here that the term ends April 2021. Is that a typo, or is that exactly when it ends and you have to do it all over again?
That is something that needs to be clarified by the state, but you wouldn't, I think it was more to give turnover for the representatives, not for the resolutions. So I should do my own due diligence in that case and make sure that the language is as up to date and accurate as possible. But that would be for the representatives, not the municipality.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Garuso.
I just want to note, that was one of the reasons why I jumped it, because I saw a resolution and not contract or agreement where it was going to cost us money or bind us in any way. So just to be clear on that, it was a resolution. So that's why I was pretty jumpy to do it, but I'll support the motion to refer to committee. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a motion. It has been seconded to refer this to Community and Economic Development Committee. If there's no further discussion or debate, would all those in favor please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Amanda, for joining us tonight.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, so we are on to reports and letters from department heads and officials. Up first, we have Brennan Duffy, RRA Director. RRA Board Recommendation BIAP Grant. This is
Motion.
page 1 of the packet.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
There's a motion to suspend the rules and it has been seconded. All those in favor of suspending the rules, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries.
So thanks, Matt. Good evening, everybody. As you see in the memo that was sent out, we have another BIAP applicant looking for a $5,000 BIAP grant to help offset the cost of some improvements being made to their store on Merchants Row in downtown. And there was actually a nice article in the Herald here recently that I think described that. I also believe that Casey McNeil might be on the call here. Casey, are you on with us tonight?
Hi, Brennan. Yes, I am on.
So I might just turn it over to Casey for a moment and just let him explain a little bit more about the project for the board, and then the RRA's recommendation would be for the board to approve that $5,000 BIAP grant. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Hey, everyone. I'm Casey McNeil. I am actually the third generation at McNeil and Reedy. My grandpa, started the business back in 1956. My dad and my uncle run the store today, and I'm helping out, a lot with the construction and trying to get them a little bit more up to speed with technology, trying to do a little bit more marketing online, as well as refresh the inside of the store. So this year's our 65th anniversary, and with everything that's going on in the world right now with COVID, we felt that it was a great time to recommit to Rutland, and we've been down there in the same exact location for many years, and felt it was important to show the community that we're there to stay, and really try to give back a little bit too, and preserve the historical aspects of the building. So a lot has been done to date. We've really only been going for about 3.5-4 weeks, and it's pretty much the whole store from the exterior to the interior. We unboarded some windows on the front, which you could see if you just drive by. It's a little rough right now because we have to wait until spring to repaint, but there's 9 new panels of glass out front. And when you're in the store, you can now see, all the way up to the top of the Mead building, which is pretty cool. And it just allows so much more light into the store, and it's just pretty cool to have it back to the way it was back, when my grandpa started it. And then on the inside, we actually had the original tin ceiling on about 50% of the store. The other 50% of the store was just like a regular pine beadboard, also original. And those were covered up about 40 or 50 years ago with, about 40 years ago with drop ceiling and some fluorescent lighting. So we thought it was important to take that out, restore some of the original stuff. And we were amazed when we pulled the ceiling down. The tin is really it's almost in perfect shape. You would never know that it's been up there for 100 or so years. And all it needed was a quick coat of paint, and we replaced the lighting from the fluorescent to energy efficient LED lights. With an older style, just to try to bring some of the history back. And we're excited about this, especially just adding more life to downtown is important to us. Part of the application, I explained that we'd upgraded our point of sale system. We had been using the same cash register for, again, probably 40 or so years. And we got up to speed, so we can now sell gift cards online, which we hope to do in the next couple months. This would allow us to bring on at least one, if not 2, maybe one part-time employee, especially through the summer when things hopefully start opening up, and really to help focus on the marketing side. And, we'd like to find someone that's also passionate about retail and men's clothing if possible. If not, just to give someone a good sense of retail and e-commerce, I think would be important. So yeah, really appreciate you guys' time. If you have any questions or if you want to stop by and check it out, it's pretty amazing to see the amount of work that could be done in a couple weeks. All the bones were there. It's just unveiling it to what it used to be. So thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Clifford.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move for the approval of the $5,000 BIAP grant for McNeil and Reed.
Second.
Second.
Right. We have a motion and it has been seconded. Is there any further discussion or debate on this? Alderman Gillum.
I'm proud to vote for this because I've been a lifetime customer, and I'll tell you, having someone down there for 65 years, that's a big thing for Rutland City. So I think we should all support this store and give them the money so they can keep going. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderman Gillum. Any other questions, debate, comments? Hearing and seeing none, we have a motion and it has been seconded to approve $5,000 buyout grant. Would all those in favor please indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Brennan.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
All right, we are on to Barbara Spaulding, RRA, Vermont Trans Resolution. This is pages 2 through 4 of your packet.
So Matt, this will be Brennan again. I think Barbara did a great job of putting together a pretty comprehensive information packet for the board here. But this is another fairly new grant that came up in December. We noticed that there was an opportunity to find some additional funding for what's being offered through VTrans Small Scale Bike and Ped grant program. And then after talking with our Department of Public Works engineers, we have established a project that they are going to be working on as part of their sidewalk rehab over the summer. So this is a project that was going to occur, and we were able to find a way to expand on that project and also leverage 75 or just under $75,000 worth of grant funds through the program. So what we're looking for this evening is a resolution to support this project. Again, there's no cash being requested because this is going to be work that will be occurring, and it will be, again, expanding the scope of the area around the Northwest School to create new sidewalks, safer areas there. It will also, as you can see from the map that was in the packet, tie in very well with the Creek Path and with the Giorgetti Athletic Complex and the Pine Hill Park Trailhead. So for the access for kids in the school going to those areas or people in that neighborhood, I think it's going to be a great project. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Brennan. Alderman Clifford.
I'm just going to move to suspend rules.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to suspend the rules and seconded. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Alderman Clifford.
Yeah, I would move to approve the resolution of the 2021 VTrans Small Scale Bicycle and Pedestrian Grant Northwest Elementary School Sidewalk Safety Improvements Resolution, and have the board president sign on our behalf.
Second.
We have a motion that has been seconded. Is there any discussion or debate on this issue? Alderman Torrey.
Thank you. Just quickly, this came before the RRA talking about the opportunity for the grant, and that Brennan was going to work with the engineer and DPW and such to make sure we got the right project. When this came through, I didn't actually recognize it as the same project because I think that it's such a good focus in terms of that area and that school and the recreation assets. So I'm really appreciative to Brennan and the DPW folks for really putting together a good project. It's way to build on our the bond that we already have for that sidewalk work. So I'm really happy with this and supportive of this. So thank you for your work.
Thank you, Alderman Torrey. Alderman Gillum.
Yes, I have a selfish question here because I live in that neighborhood. I just want to know, is that a quarter mile if I do the whole loop?
The linear feet is written out there. I'm not a mathematician, so I'm going to let you figure out how close to a quarter mile that would get you. I don't believe
That'd be
so.
great for the kids to walk that every day, once a day or twice a week. Matter of fact, I would like to walk that twice a week. That's going to be pretty cool, that loop that goes all the way around. I think that's a great improvement to that neighborhood.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Phil.
Alderman Gillum.
I hope that our former Alderman Chris Soliski is watching and seeing this, because this was obviously one of his pet peeves, was how that had been kind of repaved over on the sidewalk area around that school, and this will remedy that situation.
Any other questions, comments, debate on this? If not, the motion has been seconded to approve the 2021 VTrans Small Scale Bicycle and Pedestrian Grant, Northwest Elementary School Sidewalk Safety Improvements Resolution, and to authorize the board president to sign on behalf of the board. Would all those in favor please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Brennan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we are on to Chief Kilcullen, request to dispose of scrap vehicles, and this is page 5 of your packet. Chief Kilcullen.
Yes, thank you, Board President. So these 6 vehicles are, again, between 10 and 15 years old, uninspectable at this point. One formerly maintained by the school department for use by our school resource officer. Others, various times, used as backup canine cars. We now have 1 canine rather than 2. A couple were former frontline vehicles, repurposed as admin vehicles, and one currently being kind of leaving the fleet, as formerly used as a detective vehicle. So again, all uninspectable, and looking to for permission to dispose of those. Typically, they've been disposed through a scrap yard that picks up the vehicles, and they're on their way.
Thank you. Alderwoman Davis.
So, Chief, there's no resale value to these cars. They're just junk.
Correct. Uninspectable. So without, I think, then again, typically most of them uninspected because of some structural issues. So it would take some extensive repairs that we're not willing to incur the expense on. And again, between 15 years old at this point.
Right. Thank you.
Sure.
Alderman Clifford.
Do we need to suspend the rules for this? Okay, I move to suspend the rules, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to suspend the rules, and it has been seconded. Would all those in favor please indicate by saying aye.
Aye. And
Those opposed? Motion. Alderman Clifford.
I move to scrap.
Thank you.
You need the numbers?
So if you want to include in the motion the specific vehicles as outlined by the chief in the email. I know you don't have to cite them, but.
Right.
Yeah, so move.
Second.
Alderman Gill.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion. It's been seconded to scrap the vehicles as outlined in Chief Kilcullen's email. Alderman Caruso.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's sad, but I remember Ron Graves was the treasurer, and we were talking about, what we had left at the end of owning these cars. And back when the community policing officer was started with Chief Holmes, they picked out the best of one of these, and they got the new community policing officer in it. And the first 3 days he was in it, the transmission went in the car, and it was like $5,000, $3,000 to fix the transmission, and it was worth more than the car was. So I think we're we're making a good move here. They all probably have 200,000 miles apiece on them, and they've had a rough life. So I guess it's a good motion, I think, to get them out of the yard so the chief can park more of them there.
Thank you, Alderman Caruso. Alderwoman Humphrey.
Thanks. When we scrap these, do we receive payments? Like, is there any money exchanged for when somebody picks us up for scrap? And if so, do we need to include in the motion where that goes? And my other question was, if any money is exchanged, does it go to the equipment fund, or what happens there?
Typically, there's no money exchanged. It's in lieu of payment for the tow company to get rid of the cars. They're taken by the company and then they're scrapped. So
okay.
I mean, they're basically, I mean, they may salvage some parts, but again, there's no money exchange between us and them. You know, we're not paying for the tow for the 6 vehicles, but there's no money exchanged.
Thank you.
Sure.
Alderman Caruso.
I was just going to tell Melinda, there was one time where metal was right through the roof and they were paying like $700-800 a car and whatever, but metal's dropped again. So you're lucky that just for the record call, they'll do it. But I had one once where I got a check back from the guy, you know, but it's not anymore. Too bad it wasn't, but you're right. There once was.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion or debate? Hearing none, we have a motion seconded to scrap the vehicles outlined in Chief Kilcullen's email. Would all those in favor please indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
All right. Up next, we have Treasurer Markowski. First up, approval of loan documents for CSJ acquisition, streets and sidewalks, and culverts structures. And this was emailed to each of us. Treasurer Markowski.
Okay. Attached are the documents for the loan as presented. The borrowing is consistent with voter-approved bonds for the CSJ athletic facility and the continuation for the structures, culverts, and streets and sidewalks. So I'm looking for approval of the documents, and approval of the authorization for the mayor and the treasurer to execute the documents and secure the funding for these projects.
Alderwoman Davis.
I'll just move to suspend the rules.
Second.
We have suspend the rules. It's been seconded. Would all those in favor please indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
And I'll move for the approval of the loan documents and authorize the mayor and the treasurer to execute bond documents and authorize the city clerk to test their signature.
Second.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and it has been seconded. Is there any discussion or debate on the issue? Hearing and seeing none. Would all those in favor please indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Treasurer Markowski. We have you up next for your treasurer's report, which was also emailed to each of you.
Okay. Thank you. So the report tonight is for the January financial report for the January financial statements. I'll just quickly summarize at the end of January, cash in city accounts at $13 million, with $8 million of that in special revenue and capital project funds. The pooled cash account has a balance of $2.7 million for the end of the period, and that pooled cash account is the combined balances, the operating account for the city, what we use for the general fund and the proprietary funds. when you're looking at the pooled cash, I'll get right into the pooled cash report, you'll see that sewer fund has a large balance due to the city. And I did double check that we have roughly $1.7 million currently pending reimbursement. So that's been sent out by the engineers requisitioning those funds. So I anticipate we should get that money in relatively soon. So that's going to improve that sewer cash position quite a bit. And right now, we just went through the collection at the beginning of February, finalized that water sewer collection. So we should see some improvement there. Also noting the parking fund cash at $30,000, and we're just going to have to continue to watch. I don't have a good answer for that fund right now, but it's certainly not going to support the ongoing operations with the cash portion of that. So I wanted to note that. Transit fund also, I think I noted in Finance Committee, Laz was working with the state. There was a little bit of backlog in paying some of the revenues from the parking in the transit fund. So hoping that will get a little bit better. I reached out to Laz and they reported that they had received some of that. So we should see some improvement there. In looking at the delinquency report, I wanted to note that in January we had a settlement on the Rutland Herald property, so that really, we were holding that as a receivable, a bankruptcy receivable, so we received roughly $110,000 to settle delinquent taxes and any current taxes on that property, so that was good, a positive for January. Right now, looking at the balance sheet, we have a good unassigned fund balance. I'm projecting if we can keep our expenses in check with our budget, we should have some surplus when we're looking at the tax rate for next year. So continuing to watch that. Looking at the overall picture, income expenses, the general fund is at about 57%, right on target. That includes any encumbrances that are out there. I did notice some departments having a little bit of overage, but there's usually an offsetting revenue item there, so that's a positive. Water, sewer, and funds are both revenues are below target for the second quarter billing. Expenses are also good, below what we would see at 7 months. So continuing to watch those. Parking meter revenues at 39% right now and expenses at 48%. So, and also to note, RRA, really right on target. There's a lot of tracking of the keeping RRA expenses right within budget. When you're looking at revenues, we record everything right at the beginning of the year, so the revenues really don't reflect where we're at for the period. But I just serving on the RRA board, I know we're looking at these financials every month as well. Another notation is I'm working with the auditors at finalizing the FY20 audit, hoping to have that out to everyone very soon. Any questions on the financials?
Yes.
Alderman
Mary?
Caruso.
Yeah, I'm trying to follow it here. I don't know where in all these papers, but I was looking under oh, here goes again. Hang on, I'm trying to, I had to go to the email because I couldn't find it on the, I'm sorry, hang on. I had to hit it. I couldn't find it in the papers here. There's so many of them. It was, I think, was it 140 or 14? What's the delinquencies, Mary?
Right now, total prior year delinquencies 1.1 million.
Okay. No, but for the total, what's all of them combined? I was just looking at that.
Total anything, when we're thinking of delinquency, we're thinking anything beyond past due. So 1.1 million right now.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, and then that number beside that is like, what's that 1.18% for 2020, 0.75% for 2019? What's that mean?
I got to see where, are you on the delinquency report right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I didn't see that. I guess from what I sent you, I don't see where that is.
It's just below where you were just at. You were just talking about the.
Okay, that would be the percentage collection on the first and second quarter, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah, and
All
we're
right.
right. You know, we had a really solid collection today, I'll say. Given that we had a storm and everything, we had good use of our mail box out back. Lot of traffic and solid collection today, so that was good. But that will be updated the next time. Yep.
I don't know if that was your idea. That was a great idea, that box out back.
Thank you.
I commend you. Thank you. All right, I just had that question. Thanks, Mary.
Yep, sure.
Alderwoman Davis?
So I just want to say, Mary, I really appreciate these reports that you summarize because I think it saves us a lot of time and just gets to the nitty-gritty of the reports. One question, did we ever send the parking meter fund to committee to look at that? I thought we had. I don't know if anybody recall whether we did or not.
I thought we had, but I'm not sure that we had scheduled a meeting, and I think
that's okay. I just wanted to make sure it was in the committee. You know, we don't have to meet on it right away. And I'm looking at Alderman Torrey. I don't know. Do we send it to finance or no?
I think we did. I think we had I think we sent it to DPW first, and then I think we ended up back at sending it to finance.
That's fine. As long as we've already sent it in committee, then we can work on what we need to work on for revenues for parking. But I do want to say, you know, I think we all watch the news and we all hear about the struggles that cities, certainly much larger than we are, but still struggles that cities are having financially due to COVID, not being able to provide services, not being able to meet the basic needs of the residents they serve. And I think the city's done a tremendous job, and I congratulate the administration.
Thank you, Alderwoman Davis. Alderman Caruso?
If there's a motion to look at the parking meter fund, I really think it needs to be a joint committee with community development because, you know, again, that's the complaint is, parking meter enforcement was, you know, the days when you drove around the block 6 times looking for a place to park. And now, like I said, I've had it happen. I was the only car on Center Street. I went into Ernie's to get a sandwich and came out and had a ticket. My fault, but, you know, a $15 ticket and a $14 sandwich was a $29 lunch was expensive. And, you know, there have been other people upset. I've got a letter to the editor somewhere in my desk here of someone that had that happen, went to the library, got a coffee and extended the meter and got a $15 ticket. That, you know, I think community development needs to look at that. And I think it's all the same story. That and the meters are all the same story. So if a motion's made, I'd like to see it be a joint committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Caruso. Alderman Torrey?
Thanks. On the delinquencies, I assume a lot of that the collections there has to do with Katie Langlois and the work she's been doing. So thank her for us, Mary. And then also, so I'll motion to receive and file this report.
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Is there any additional discussion or debate on this? Hearing and seeing none, there's a motion that has been seconded to receive and file. Would all those in favor please indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Mary.
All right. We have a handful of executive sessions, which we will move to the end of the meeting, which now brings us to reports of standing committees. Up first, we have Alderwoman Mattis, Charter and Ordinance, and this was emailed to each of us. Alderman Mattis.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the Charter and Ordinance Committee met on February 9th, 2021. Committee members present were myself, Sam Garuso, Melinda Humphrey, and Chris Hattori. Other aldermen present were Matt Whitcomb, Sharon Davis, Michael Talbot, Tom DePoy, and Paul Clifford. And others present were City Attorney Matt Bloomer, Brennan Duffy from the RRA, and Building Inspector Bob Pelletier. The meeting was called to order at 6:03. The purpose of the meeting was to look at the final draft of the proposed sign ordinance. The chair noted that the final draft was the result of over 2 years' work compiling all of the input from the committee, the whole board, the business community, sign professionals, and others to make desired alterations to the original draft, which was presented by the Planning Commission. The chair noted that a current section of City Ordinance, Section 4453, having to do with awnings, contains language about awning signs, which should be folded into the sign ordinance if the proposed draft is passed. The building inspector spoke in favor of having a clear ordinance that is easy to understand. The current ordinance is so vague that it is difficult to interpret and enforce, and he believes the proposed draft is clear and well laid out. The main concern voiced by those present was the difficult economic climate caused by COVID. Alderman Garuso said that while he wants signs in the city to be well maintained and attractive, it didn't seem right to him to make a business remove a sign that is in good shape. The chair noted that the proposed ordinance would only require a business to remove a sign after 6 months of vacancy if the sign is non-conforming. If a sign is conforming, as are the great majority of signs in the city, it would just have to be covered. Alderman DePoy agreed that signs that are in good shape, even if they are considered too tall by this ordinance, should be allowed to stand as long as they are structurally sound. Questions arose about triggers for conformance. In the proposed ordinance, the main trigger for conformance is upon change of business, that is, a significant change to the sign face. The main concern, again, was enforcing changes to signs during a very difficult economic climate. Alderman Hattori suggested that the board create a grant program like the BIAP fund to help businesses bring their signs into compliance. This would allow the city to achieve its long-term goals of improving our signscape by giving businesses the funds to do so. Alderman Davis agreed that the city should not put a burden on any business for any reason until we see an economic recovery, and said that the city can put a good sign ordinance into place now and still delay those conformance triggers. She suggested that Attorney Bloomer draft language to that effect. Alderman DePoy suggested that the compliance trigger of change of business should not occur until January 1st, 2023. The chair agreed to ask Attorney Bloomer to provide this language. Alderman Humphrey moved to recommend to the board, with consideration for proposed amendments, the replacement of the existing sign ordinance, Title 10, with the proposed new ordinance as presented, and to amend the awning section of City Ordinance, Section 4453, in the manner presented. The motion passed 4-0. And I so move.
Second.
We have a motion and it has been seconded. Alderwoman Mattis.
And I would like to amend that motion as follows. Per the memo provided by Attorney Bloomer, I would like to change Section 12-1-C-3 of the ordinance to read for the trigger for conformance, the primary content of the sign, add the language, but only if the significant change occurs after January 1st, 2023, and to add to section 12-2-B. The language as follows. A non-conforming sign that meets the definition of an abandoned sign at any point after January 1st, 2023 shall be brought into conformance with this sign ordinance or removed.
Second.
All right, so we have an amendment to the original motion, and that has been seconded. Is there any discussion or debate on the amendment to the original motion? Or as amended, I'm sorry. I'm gonna give Susan Strideman a chance to talk, who had reached out with some thoughts from the Planning Commission. So Susan, you are up. Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah. Okay. Can you hear me? I'd like to read something from the Planning Commission about the sign ordinance. The Planning Commission is an advisory board tasked with developing the best course of action in the areas of planning, zoning, and ordinances as permitted by state statutes. We take the visions set forth in the city master plan and use our expertise and best judgment to propose changes to city ordinances. The sign ordinance we drafted and sent to the Board of Aldermen was a textbook example of this. We looked at the master plan, researched current signs around the city, measured them, looked extensively at current sign standards in other comparable Vermont cities, worked with Mike Gauthier of Green Screen Graphics, and held public meetings that included business owners to solicit public input. We revised the draft based on the input we received. In the end, we feel that our final draft, when enacted, will make our commercial districts more attractive, make enforcement more logical, and have a positive economic effect. Our draft was given to the Charter and Ordinance Committee for consideration. Chair Mattis's committee members expressed opposition to many of our standards. In the spirit of compromise, she worked hard to reach consensus among her committee members on a modified sign ordinance document. We, the Planning Commission, proposed that the board reduce the size of maximum freestanding signs to 32 square feet, as it is in at least 5 Vermont cities, and approve the Charter and Ordinances Committee's draft.
Thank you, Susan. Alderman Caruso, I see your hand.
Yeah, I was just going to say, maybe it's appropriate now that since even 1992, I don't think I've seen an alder person work as hard as Rebecca Mattis has. I've said it on Facebook. I think she's a wonderful member of this board. She takes everything into consideration. She's one of the best listeners I've met in a long time, and I commend her for her work on this, and she's just done a fabulous job, and I support her motion tonight.
Thank you, Sam.
Thank you, Alderman Caruso. Alderman Talbot?
So I guess I'd prefer to be voting on a sign ordinance that was a lot closer to what was originally drafted by the Planning Commission. As the chair of the commission said, they put 2 years of research into crafting a thoughtful sign ordinance based on data and expertise. Alderwoman Mattis was tasked with the challenge of trying to revise the ordinance to get it through committee and passed by the board, and what has resulted is an ordinance that lacks a strong vision for the future of Rutland. Instead, it mostly conforms to the status quo. A sign ordinance isn't inherently anti-business. A sign ordinance will help to shape Rutland into a more thoughtfully designed community that is more appealing to future residents and visitors, and that's good for business. That said, even though the sign ordinance isn't one that I love everything about, and I'm disappointed at some of the things that have been removed from it, I do believe it's a step in the right direction, and it makes things more easily enforced. So I will be reluctantly voting yes. I wonder if the chair of Charter and Ordinance would consider amending the motion to reduce the maximum allowed signage to the 34 square feet.
Thank you, Alderman Talbot. Alderwoman Humphrey, I believe I saw your hand.
Thanks. I do have some comments, but if Rebecca would like to respond to Alderman Talbot's suggestion, I'll let her go ahead.
Oh, thank
Alder-
you. Sorry. I'm not ready to do that. I think I want to stand by what the committee created. Of course, someone can make that motion to amend, but I'm not ready to do that myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Mattis. Back to you, Alderwoman Humphrey.
Thanks. So I'm coming from a place where I would have supported a sign ordinance much closer to the one originally proposed by the Planning Commission. I do think we missed an opportunity here to have a vision for the city looking further ahead than the 2 years immediately in front of us. And however, as participating in this process as a charter and ordinance member, at some point I became resigned to the fact that the draft as proposed was no longer an option. And so I participated with the notion that what we were creating or editing at that point had kind of shifted direction to become a document that had a lot of input from building and zoning and was a document that they felt was significantly more workable, usable, and enforceable than what had existed. And so for that reason, I'm in support of Alderman Mattis's proposed draft. However, I would like to make the motion, as Alderman Talbot suggested, to decrease from, correct me please, 75, the maximum square footage to the 30, what was that, 35?
Just sort of as a point of order here. First, we're voting on the amendment to the original motion. So we should take that up first before moving into this.
Okay, so point of clarification. So we're voting on the amendment for Alderman Bloomer's language, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Alderman Gillum?
Before we vote, I think Mr. Wilk is sitting here patiently. I think he might have something to say.
Mr. Wilk, the floor is yours.
Good evening. Thank you. I'm a little late to the meeting here. I apologize, and I'm a little late to be up on the sign ordinance. I understand some of the language in the sign changes is to reduce the height of the signs to 15 feet, along with the size. I mean, I'm just going to state a few reasons why I think that's not a good idea for the height of the sign, and I don't have a strong opinion to the size. But the height of the sign, first off, as this moves forward, just on Route 7, Rite Aid, the former Rite Aid is my property, actually, 7 West Street. So that sign, Five Guys has a sign over 15. Tops, Walgreens, Burger King, CVS, Speedy Looms, Seward's, Shell, Godnick's, Noble Ace Hardware. Heading south, Dunkin' Donuts, Bowl-O-Rama, Comfort Inn, CJ's, McDonald's, Cumberland Farms, Irving. Those are the signs that are all over 15 feet, and there could be more that were close that I didn't measure. And that's just South Main and North Main. The same exists on Woodstock Avenue, and those signs were put at those heights to attract business, obviously. they're all different heights. It's not like there's a standard height of 30 feet or 25 feet or 20 feet. When a business is looking for permits, they're looking for sight lines to enter and exit the permit. These signs are also to identify where the businesses are to prepare yourself to enter, especially on Route 4 and Route 7 where they're multi-lane establishments. I mean, if we're comparing to other towns, I would hope we're comparing to towns that have the similar road footprint. Manchester comes to mind. It's a very quaint small town with slow moving traffic, and it's easy to identify these signs. That's the reason. Also, a lot of us that own local people that own these businesses that rent to national companies, that's what the national companies want. By reducing the signs height and in some cases square footage, I think it needs to be to each, there has to be conformity. I understand what you're trying to do, but there also needs to be a to look at each individual business and their needs and their location to the road. That matters, sight lines, like I was saying earlier. So that's my my feelings on that. I obviously think it should go back to the drawing board and do more to it. I'm not against it as a whole, but those are very critical problems I see. I'm trying to see what else I have for notes here. Yeah, no, I think I've covered it. That's my feeling as a lifelong Vermonter business owner here in Rutland. Rutland is different than Manchester or other slow-moving towns, and I think that should be considered. And that's my 2 cents. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Wilk. Alderman Garuso?
Yes, again, Rebecca went around, she measured, she rode her bicycle, she met with businesses, she took pictures, she researched. She's dealing with one of Rutland's problems and issues, not our problems, because we have bigger problems in Rutland than our signs, okay? I got no time for this stuff. This is the stuff that gets me mad. We got empty stores, and Mr. Wilk's got an empty property up there that could be paying taxes and getting us, maybe rooms and meals tax, and we're worrying about his sign or trying to restrict his sign. And you guys in the Planning Commission, it's our city. It's not yours. I don't care if you live in it. It's our city. All right. We'll make our own signs. Okay. I support the motion and no changes to it. And, we got better stuff to do. Let's move on. All right.
Alderman Clifford?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rebecca, some of the issues that Mr. Wilk has stated, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't some of those grandfathered?
If I may, yes, they're all grandfathered, and the main compliance trigger, which is a change of business, which would apply to, for example, the Rite Aid sign, that's what this amendment proposes to alleviate by giving us a chance to fund those changes. That would, solve most of this problem. As to all the other signs, yes, they would all be grandfathered. I do want to reassure Mr. Wilk that I did drive around with most aldermen, and we made sure that these sizes and heights were appropriate for the roadway. I also want to say too that there is a waiver provision written into the ordinance that if there's any special at any particular properties, that a waiver can be requested. It was really important to meet the needs of businesses all over the city. Thank you. That's all.
Caller 18, I don't know who you are, but it's you. Alderman Clifford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Steve, does that help you at all, what the chairman just said? Does that clear anything up?
Yes, no, I appreciate that language for sure. As a business owner, I guess the problem I foresee is, say I'm vacant for another 2 years, and which nobody wants. I know tax or whatever revenues myself and the city could, but say it's vacant for 2 years, and a business wants to come in there, and now they fall under that guideline of the new sign ordinance, and that may or may not be a deal breaker. And I appreciate like how we can say each individual project could be viewed differently, but that's a big risk for a business owner trying to rent their business is taking. I don't know how else to word it. I'm not saying it, like I said, I think it should be each individual to an extent, but also there needs to be some certainty to what you can and can't do with that property 2 years from now if that ordinance is in place. And I don't know, Kenny Drugs wants to come in and they like the height of the sign because they can see it coming Route 7 as traveling north. And if it's lowered and the trees in the park are in the way or whatever, that may be a deterrent, I guess. So, yeah, the language that Alderman Matt has said is it's softer, but I just worry about what I said.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you. Alderman Deploy.
Thanks, Mr. President. So this is one of the concerns that I've had along in this whole issue. And I'm speaking both to Rebecca because Rebecca has heard me, I'm sure, until she's nauseous about grandfathering these signs in so that they don't have to be taken down. And Steve, just FYI for you, as I said, this is one of the biggest issues that I've had, because if it's a very viable sign, something that's there that just needs the alteration of the wording of the sign at the top, instead of saying Rite Aid, it just needs to be changed to Kenny Drugs, or it needs to be changed to, if Aldi's was to open up something new, or, a Stewart's gas station going, anything like that, they'd be able to put their sign right on the existing structure without incurring a $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 cost. Now, last week or whatever the date was that we met for Charter and Ordinance about this, we did discuss some kind of a fund that we want to set up at some point, and it's very preliminary, the discussion on that. It was just mentioned kind of in passing, but I think that it's something, it was mentioned tonight, it's something that I think we need to look into a lot more in setting up a fund. I don't know if it would come from Zamias money, if it would come from, BIAP money, whatever it would come from, but something to help people after the January 1st, 2023 deadline that's in here. And trust me, Melinda, Michael, others have spoken tonight that this isn't what they would, want. They want something closer to what came from the Planning Commission. I wanted something a lot less restrictive. So this is definitely a meeting in the middle, and this is how good legislation comes up, when you have, movement on both sides toward the middle to find the common ground. And I think that we're doing that, and possibly have done that with this document that we have in front of us. The last thing that we need to add, though, is some kind of a funding mechanism to help the businesses, maybe a $5,000 grant or a $10,000, depending on the sign. And I know that that's a very big sign, a very expensive foundation structure and everything that you have, Steve, over there at the Rite Aid. We've looked at it. We looked at it the day that Rebecca Mattis and I drove around looking at the signs. It's definitely a very nice sign. It is a very durable, solid sign that a business coming in, whether it be before January 21st, 2023 or after, would certainly find to be a benefit to their business. And trust me, I hope that you find somebody before January 1st of 2023. I hope you find somebody tomorrow to go in there, because it's been vacant for too long. But you know, in at least backing off the implementation of this particular part of the ordinance until January 1st of 2023, the thought was we're getting businesses out of the COVID type period that we're in right now, which has been very harmful to business. And it gives maybe even a little bit more time. Hopefully, you know, we're out of COVID here sooner rather than later. And it gives businesses at least, you know, possibly another year and a half to get back on their feet, to maybe for people to get some money together so where they can rent your building there on West Street and would not incur a significant cost of $20,000 to have to change this sign. So I think this board, you know, as it moves into the future, needs to really begin to work on the idea of funding businesses such as this that have those signs that are structurally sound, but then would be out of compliance after January 1st, and helping them out in those costs if they do have to alter the signs. So that's what we're working on right now, Steve, just to get you up to date. And if Alderman Mattis has anything more to add to that, I know that she was thinking quite a bit about that funding mechanism, as well as Alderman Ettore. So at that, I'll shut up. Thanks.
Thank you, Alderman DePoy. I just put out to the board here that we are still discussing the amendment to the original motion that came out. So I don't know if you guys would like to take that up first, and then we deal with whether or not we adopt the amendment or revert back to the original motion. Alderman DePoy?
Mr. President, I would just like to offer up I don't think it has to be a motion. I think you can grant the authority for the board to speak to the entire bill, or the entire proposal here for the ordinance, as well as the amendment.
Thank you, Alderman DePoy. Alderwoman Humphrey.
I would like to take this up separately because there was another suggested amendment on the floor, or not on the floor yet, but proposed. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Humphrey. So we have the original motion that came out, and then the amendment as provided through the language in the email from Attorney Bloomer. Alderman Gillum?
Just point of order, we're voting on the amendment right now, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Whether or not we should accept the amendment to the original recommendation out of the committee. So, Alderman Garuso?
I thought it was the motion, and then she amended her own motion. So when we approve this, we're approving the whole item with the amendment. She made her motion with the amendment.
We got point of order. We need to take the amendment up first. That was put on the floor. Then we vote on the legislation that was put on the floor after that.
Yes, that's correct. So Alderman Garuso, we're just taking up now whether or not to accept the amendment to what came out of committee. If that passes, then we'll be taking up the entirety of the original motion with the amendment. If it fails, we're back to just debating the original motion so moved out of committee.
Okay.
Okay. Perfect. So, hearing no further discussion or debate, would all those in favor of the amendment to the motion of the committee as proposed, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. So we have the motion that came out of committee now with the now adopted amendment to that language. So I will open this up for discussion. Alderman.
I wanted to second the motion made by Alderwoman Humphrey, if this is the appropriate time to do that.
Could one of you provide me with the specific language that you're?
Yeah, I think Michael can remake the motion yourself if you'd like, Michael.
Sure, to reduce the maximum allowed square footage to, if Susan can help me here, to 34 square feet is the maximum. What is it?
32.
32.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have the motion as amended, and now we would like to offer another amendment, reducing the maximum square footage of signs to 32 square feet. Am I correct in restating that that is the, okay, amendment being offered? All right, is there any discussion or debate on the amendment to reducing the square footage of the signs to 32 feet? Alderman Attore.
Thank you. Just as information, and I don't know if Rebecca has this information or Susan, what is the height restrictions and the size restrictions in a place like Barry or South Burlington? It's just for our kind of edification.
If you're asking me, Chris, I don't have that information with me. I do know that South Burlington, I think its maximum is 60 square feet. That's one figure that I recall seeing recently, but I don't know the others.
Susan, if you have that, please go ahead.
I do, and we're talking about a 4,000 square foot property with 150 foot of frontage located on a major commercial road. South Burlington is 32 square feet with a 15 foot maximum height. Williston, 32 square feet with 12 feet maximum height. Barry, 24 square feet with 12 feet maximum height.
Thank you, Susan. Alderman Attore, does that answer your question?
It does, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have the motion as amended out of committee, and we have the new motion, or the new amendment, and it has been seconded to limit the square footage of signs to 32 square feet. Is there any further discussion or debate on this amendment? Alderman Gillum.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm going to vote against this amendment because the chairperson from Chardon Ordinance did a wonderful job putting this together and ushering us through this, and we compromised. And we got a pretty good piece of legislation here that helps the business people, also helps the enforcer or the inspector to do his job a little bit better. I know it's not the whole enchilada, but we can always go back down the road and put more in there as we need it as we go down the road. But for now, sends a clear message out there that we're supporting business, which we need to do at this moment to help them get back from COVID. So I'm not going to support this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Gillum. Alderman Attore.
Thank you. I'm not going to support the amendment either. I think that what this product was about putting together what this product ended up being. Was not about setting a vision or kind of creating rules and restrictions. It was about, it became about codifying what's out there and trying to help businesses stay in that vein and help the businesses, to Alderman Dupoy's point, if there's going to be some issues that we're going to help them kind of meet the new standards. This was not this came from the planning commission in a different way as a vision document. That's not what it became. And so I'm going to vote against this amendment, and I will vote for the ordinance as presented for the reasons that Alderman DePoy and Alderwoman Mattis and others have mentioned. I think that this is an opportunity at some point to go back to the drawing board and have a different discussion about what is the vision for the city, and making sure that we're including everybody in a different way at that point. But this is not that document, so I'll be voting against this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Torrey. Alderwoman Humphrey.
Thanks. I just want to point out that I know going through this process, we've been concerned about making sure that signs that are existing kind of fold in nicely into the new ordinance. But I do think the suggested amendment, if nothing else, is indicative that we can make significant improvements either now or going forward to the proposed draft that would bring forth a new vision and some improvements without getting anywhere close to a Manchester or a Woodstock. As Susan pointed out, this is in line with other cities like Barrie and South Burlington and Williston. So it's not outlandish or radical to any extent, and it's not Manchester or Woodstock. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Humphrey. Is
Matt,
there any further?
Can I jump in for just a clarification? So in the existing draft, I believe it's 75 square feet, Rebecca, is that correct? Is the maximum? So
That's correct.
This amendment would, just so people are aware, would limit that by more than half. And again, I'm just pointing that out, that's a pretty significant reduction in size. That would also have an effect on all of those currently legal signs that would be non-conforming in the future. Thanks.
Thank you, Brennan. Alderwoman Humphrey.
One last comment. So on the flip side of that, though, while this amendment would cut in half what is proposed, on the flip side of that, we're passing an ordinance that allows us to have signs more than twice of what other cities our size currently have. So just for that context, thank you.
Thank you, Alderwoman Humphrey. So we have the original motion as amended. It was accepted, and now we have an additional amendment that's been seconded to limit the square footage of signs to 32 square feet. There's no further discussion or debate. I would like to initiate a roll call vote, as I do think this will not be unanimous. So I'll turn it over to Clerk Heck to take the vote.
Alderman Garuso.
No.
Alderwoman Humphrey.
Yes.
Alderwoman Ryan.
Yes.
Alderman Torrey.
No.
Alderman Talbot.
Yes.
Alderwoman Mattis.
No.
Alderman Gillum.
No.
Alderman Clifford.
No.
Alderman DePoy.
No.
Alderwoman Davis.
No.
7 noes, 3 yeses. Motion fails.
Yep. 7 no, 3 yes. The motion fails. So we have before us the motion out of committee with an amendment as accepted by the board. Is there any further discussion or debate on the motion and its amendment? Hearing and seeing none, I will initiate a roll call vote on this. And I will turn it over to Clerk Heck.
So we're voting on the mission. We're voting on the motion out of committee again. Okay.
As amended.
So,
As amended. All right, by the city attorney.
Alderman Garuso.
Yes.
Alderwoman Humphrey.
Yes.
Alderwoman Ryan,
No.
Alderman Tory,
Yes.
Alderman Talbot,
Yes.
Alderwoman Mattis,
Yes.
Alderman Gillum,
Yes.
Alderman Clifford,
Yes.
Alderman DePoy,
Yes.
and Alderwoman Davis.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Motion passes 9-1. Thank you,
Nice job,
everyone.
Alderman Mattis.
Thank you, Alderman Mattis. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Very good job,
All right.
Alderman Mattis.
Mr. President,
We are, yes, Alderman
I'd
Gillum.
like to put a motion dealing with this issue in committee, dealing with financing, a mechanism that would work with the new sign ordinance when it goes into effect in 2023. So it'll give us some time to work it out and flush it out to put a program in place. I would like to send it
Second.
to community development.
We have a motion, and it's been seconded by Alderman DePoy. So the motion, just so I have it correct, is to refer to Finance Committee the sign ordinance and potential financial assistance for conversion of any Alderman.
I'm
I
sorry.
believe the motion should be community economic development.
Right, that's what I thought.
Well,
you
to go to
said.
economic development, yeah, first,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
I thought you said.
Eventually, we'll have to go to chart and ordinance when it's all done, but yes, community development first.
Okay, so in the seconder is community and economic development. Okay. Alderman Humphrey?
Thanks. I don't want to push this point any further, or we'll lose Alderman Caruso when he goes to stir the sauce. But I think I'm curious. Does this, and I'll mention it in committee as well, but would this all fall under the existing BIAP program, and why or why not? I just want to talk about that in committee is all.
Right. I think we should flush that out. Absolutely.
Thank you. Alderman Tory?
Thank you. Yes, as it was my suggestion in the meeting that BIAP might be the right funding mechanism for it. The BIAP fund is set to be the policy to be renewed this summer. I believe at the end of June is when it needs to be reviewed. And so I would encourage that this meeting to actually not be held until sometime later in the year.
Thank you, Alderman Tory.
No
Alderman
problem.
Caruso?
I'd like to know how Alderwoman Humphrey knows there's sauce on my stove right now.
What's an assumption?
That's a true story. It really is. But thank you.
So we have a motion that's been seconded to refer to community and economic development, financing or financial incentive for people needing to change their signs. But all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. All right, we are on to Alderman Tory, Finance Committee, and this was emailed out to everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Finance Committee met on February 11th, 2021 to discuss the use of the Zamias settlement money for the Rec Community Center. Committee members present were myself, Alderwoman Davis, Alderman Caruso, and Alderwoman Humphrey. Other aldermen present were Alderman Clifford, Gillum, Talbot, and Wickham. Others present were Mayor Allaire, Attorney Bloomer, Treasurer Markowski, Brennan Duffy from the RRA, Kim Peters, the Rec Superintendent, Bob Peterson and Tyler Deline from the Rec Maintenance crew, and Gordon Drischillo from the Herald. The meeting began at 5:32 p.m. to discuss the request of a portion of the Zamias settlement funds to cover purchase-related costs. Attorney Bloomer discussed the memo sent to the board, which is attached to these minutes, outlining a total of $54,650 in estimated costs. Of this amount, the administration has committed approximately $11,500 of current year budget, leaving approximately $43,150 remaining. The request is for an amount up to $50,000 from the settlement funds. Superintendent Peters discussed the line item of $20,000 for necessary electrical work to separate the gym facility from the rest of the former CSJ campus. She said that in normal years, her department would have covered these costs out of their regular budget, but because the rec department made such deep cuts to help offset this year's tax rate as a result of COVID, they did not have room to absorb this cost. The mayor characterized the costs as one-time expenses and discussed the group effort to get the project completed. The chair asked why some of these expenses weren't included in the original bond request. The mayor responded that while he had originally requested to use some of the Zamaya settlement money to reduce the bond amount from the 1.45 million, it was his understanding that the board wanted to keep the bond for just the purchase price and use their discretion on how to spend any settlement money for other costs. Alderman Garuso also spoke to the concern of not including the closing costs in the bond request and also asked if there were any opportunities to use current budget allocations for some of the other costs. Superintendent Peters discussed the current FY21 budget and the challenges they face with no operating or maintenance budget for the new facility in this year's budget, as well as the deep cuts mentioned previously. Fortunately, the facility and their other programming is bringing in greater than expected revenues to help offset those new operating costs. Alderwoman Davis spoke to this discussion from August 2020 of using the Zamaya settlement money to pay for expenditures at the community center and said that it is a good investment for our community. She also spoke to the benefit of the rec department's ability to bring in additional non-tax revenue. The chair spoke in favor of investing in a capital fund for the rec community center to help defray any building needs and to help make sure the facility is an exceptional asset for our community. Alderwoman Humphrey noted the difference in their request between some of the purchase-related costs, like the closing costs and title insurance, that might be more appropriate to come from contingency funds, versus the facility maintenance or upgrade costs, which seem to make sense to come from the Zamayas money. Attorney Bloomer noted that about half of those purchase costs are coming from this year's budget. It did appear to the chair that combining these various costs in this single request was complicated in the conversation. Alderman Garuso pressed the administration about ways to keep costs down and to not spend the up to $50,000 that would be motioned. Superintendent Peters assured the committee that they are doing everything they can to be frugal with the money, and Bob Peterson discussed how the rec maintenance crew had already done quite a bit of work, specifically on the HVAC system, using their existing funds to try to keep the costs down. Alderwoman Davis made a motion to approve an amount not to exceed $50,000 from the Zamaya settlement funds to cover these immediate costs, which will be expended prior to and immediately following the closing. The motion passed 4-0, and I so move.
Second.
Second.
Right, and it has been seconded. Is there any discussion or debate on this? Alderman DePoy.
So I want to thank Chris for this report. And one thing that I want to really emphasize is the work that Bob Peterson and Tyler and everybody else has done in the maintenance division of that rec department in doing the upgrades over there with the HVAC, with all of the other components that are there that when we first moved into that building, started leasing it, there were a lot of problems. The water pumps on the furnaces were both shot. One was not even hooked up. It was off in a closet somewhere. The other one was leaking very badly. They got all that fixed. They've done other stuff with the roof, with the floors, with the bleachers. I mean, there's just amazing work that they've done, both inside and outside of that building. This is a small cost, I think, in bringing these issues under repair as we go forward, as we take this building over. It's something that I think we really need to do. There's no sense in taking over a $1.8 million building and not, putting a little bit of money into it to make sure that it's operational and this stuff is going to, be repaired and last for a while. So I'm fully in favor of this expenditure. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman DePoy. Alderman Garuso.
Yeah, I agree with Alderman DePoy. It may be written down. I mean, I met with Joe Giancola. He built the building. It's got a very, very high-tech system in it, especially that HVAC system. And his warning was that it be watched carefully because it was expensive, but it's very high tech too. And he said that, you know, one little mess up and it could cost a lot of money, but it's a $2.1 million building, not a 1.8. It's a $2.1 million building. And the mayor used some, you know, grants to get it down to that area. I just worry that, and I talked to Miss Peters about that they build a fund of some sort, kind of like the fire replacement fund. That's what I couldn't think of the other night when we were talking about it. So we keep it pristine because, you know, like Alderman Dupuy said, you know, there's pumps and, you know, there's a floor in there that, you know, the roof leaks, you hurt that floor. I mean, look what happened to the high school floor when the kids went in and turned on the faucet. Well, what could happen with a leak in that roof? So it is a beautiful, beautiful place. I've been there before and many times, like a lot of us have. And I just hope that we spent all this money on it, that we have a fire replacement fund someday for it, so that they'll have a place to go to help these people have the money without having to come to us all the time, and being able to keep it ship shape like it should be. And it's a very sophisticated place, a gorgeous place. And I obviously will support the motion because it's ours. We own it. We must take care of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Garuso. Is there any additional discussion or debate? Hearing and seeing none, we have a motion that has been seconded. Would all those in favor please indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
I want to say aye. I didn't have my mic on. Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. All right, we're on to reports of select committees, of which we have nothing. Reports of representatives, we have none. Petition letters, miscellaneous communication, we have nothing. Board of Control Commissioners, we do have an item, so I will entertain a motion to go into the Board of Control Commissioners.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion that has been seconded. Would all those in favor of entering the Board of Control Commissioners please indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, we are inside the Board of Control. And what we are looking for is just advise Clerk Heck that to be able to approve all first, second, third class liquor licenses outside consumption and entertainment permits for the 21-22 licensing period. Is that correct,
So
Clerk
moved.
Heck?
That is. So moved.
And authorize the clerk to sign.
And authorize the clerk to sign.
Second.
On our behalf.
We have a motion and it has been seconded. Is there any discussion or debate? Hearing and
Yes.
seeing none.
I know you
Alderman
want to
Garuso.
hurry with these, but did you guys ever, Henry called me today, has this board signed them since Sharon? We stopped that in the 90s. Remember when the stack of them was 2 feet high? We used to sit and sign them all. They didn't do that anymore.
We sign them.
Faith in
I know.
history.
This
We
board
sign-
used to do that?
We don't sign the renewals, but we sign the new liquors. Yes.
We put a stop to that in the 90s, and I told Henry that. I said, we did that years ago. I don't want to sign all those. They beat this high. But I support the motion. Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion that has been seconded. Would all those in favor please indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to go out.
So I'll move to go out of the control.
Second.
We have a motion seconded to go out of the Board of Control Commissioners. Would all those in favor please indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We are on to unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business on the board? Hearing and seeing none. We are on to miscellaneous resolutions and new business. Alderwoman Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I've had quite a few phone calls probably in the last month or so with folks who are, as we know, because of COVID, because of their either loss of jobs or loss of hours, are truly struggling to meet the payments of water and sewer and property tax bills in the same month. So those of you who are on the board recall that quite a while ago, I referred this to committee to separate the water and sewer bills from the property tax bills. And what we ended up getting was a firm to put meters in And then the discussion was that we would eventually get to monthly billing, which is great. I don't have a problem with that. But I think that's years from now. I do not think that's an immediate type of thing. So I know by charter, I don't know if Matt's on, but I know by charter we cannot really move the property tax bills because it's written by ordinance. Its dates are in place for those collections to occur. So I would like to have the discussion of separating the water sewer. If you recall way back, during Chris Loris's tenure as mayor, he removed that 30-day grace period that folks used to have. So it took that water and sewer bill away from the same month. But once that grace period went away, then they ended up on the same month. So with that said, this may have to go to different places, but I'm going to start with a referral to DPW committee.
Second.
Has been seconded. Refer this to DPW committee. Is there any discussion or debate on this? Hearing and seeing none, would all those in favor of the referral please indicate by saying aye?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Alderman DePoy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I just wanted to point out to those who are running for elective office, coming up on March 2nd, today is the due date for any campaign finance. I did have a chat with Clerk Heck today, and the state guideline is 2 weeks before the election, which would be today, that people need to get any campaign finance reports in for those who have either raised or spent over $500. I'd like to get that out there so that those that are running for school board, for mayor, for board of aldermen and other elective offices do get those campaign finance reports in. If Clerk Heck has anything further to say on that, great. He's the authority on this. I only spoke to him today about that. So I just wanted to make that announcement to everyone.
Thank you, Alderman DePoy. Anything you would want to add, Clerk Heck?
No, just what Alderman DePoy stated. And again, I don't believe within charter there's anything within the city itself specifically requesting. I believe it is, it's mandated though by Secretary of State 2 weeks before, 2 weeks after the election. As I noted when I spoke with Alderman DePoy, because of the amount of activity, let's just say for this March, I'm sure that you know, there are folks spending over $500. So if they just want to look at that, and I'm sure sooner or later Gordon's going to be calling me, asking me if I have copies of those finance reports. Not that I collect them. Sometimes I get a copy from people, but I think that they need to be, I don't know if they needed to be recorded with the Secretary of State, but they could come back to me. Again, it's one of those things that I would refer to them. And if I need to do so, I'd be happy to get an answer for the board on that, more specifically in regards to that specific campaign question.
Thank you, Clerk Heck. Alderman Tory, was this related to? Okay, go ahead.
Yes, it's, I don't know if they've changed it in the last year or two, but it's 10 days before the election. So it's this 20th is when this next report has to be out. There's the month before, which should have been filed a few weeks ago. There's 10 days out, and then there's 2 days before, I believe, as well. It's all on my calendar, but the 20th is the next one.
And Chris, if I may, you confirm that, Secretary of State, that's for the local election. That's not for what would be a national or state election?
That's on their website. And actually the whole system now, you have to log in, and it gives you the deadlines in the list, and you file it by the deadline it's in there. So yes, it's by the 20th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Mattis, I saw your hand next, but it went down. Okay. Then Alderman DePoy, I saw your hand up.
If anybody wants to still speak on that issue, certainly call on them before we move on to my next issue.
Okay. Alderwoman Davis, was this the same issue or different? Alderman Attore.
And just quickly, that's for candidates. I don't know if political action committees or other organizations have different deadlines. So just for a candidate piece, it's what I had said. Thanks.
Alderman Troy. All right, Alderman DePoy, I think we are finished with that piece.
Okay, and thanks to Alderman Attore for the updated information on that. Mr. President, my other issue today is that I've gotten about 10 phone calls or in-person complaints, and it doesn't have to do with us, it has to do with the school board last week, apparently, while they were going over the Rutland Raider High School issue. And apparently people got blocked out of the meeting, and I couldn't believe that actually happened. I can't think of anyone that's been ever blocked out of any of our meetings in the last year here, so I don't know if it's their how they're broadcasting their board meeting as opposed to how we are, or what's going on over there. But it's not the first time, and I just think it's absolutely appalling that people cannot stay on or get kicked out of a public meeting such as that. We've never done that here on the board, to my knowledge, on the Board of Aldermen. I don't think it should be happening anywhere else in government, other than obviously when boards go into executive session. So with that, I just really wanted to get that out there, that it's really irritating for those who want to be on the school board meeting, get information, give information, hear what's going on, and they're getting kicked off of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman DePoy. Alderman Garuso.
Yes, Alderman DePoy, I got a couple of calls regarding that, and I think maybe because of my broadcast background, but I believe the Secretary of State and or the Vermont Attorney General's office would be all over that. I know they've been over us in the past. I know, again, going back to ancient history, we went into an executive session and the Herald didn't like it, and they had the Attorney General and Secretary of State's office all over us for the open meeting laws. So that's pretty hot potato with those guys. There's one step further, being that it's going through phone lines and internet. The FCC would also have a place in that. So how you get to the FCC, I'm not sure if it's easier now than it might have been back when I was in the business. But you got 3 different options there, and I certainly would start with the Secretary of State's office. They've always been nice whenever I've called them about issues. They've always been more than bending over backwards. But that I did get a couple of calls, and those people have an issue because they all had the same problem, and it wasn't, from what I heard, just 1 or 2 people. It was multiple people that had that, enough to draw a case where someone could be violating someone's rights, and I don't know who it would be, how it would be, if it was a technical problem that they could prove. But Secretary of State, Attorney General, and then possibly the Federal Communications Commission is what I would do. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just passing that along if it helps.
Thank you, Alderman Russo. Alderman Davis.
I promise to be less dramatic. I just really want to put out there that if and when the clerk is able, that we get a clean copy of the sign ordinance as amended.
Thank you. Thank you. Alderman DePoy, I think I saw your hand go up.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to Alderman Garuso, and thank you for that information. I do know that the Secretary of State's office has been contacted on that, and they were told that they'll be looking into it. So hopefully, that helps people get access to the open meetings. But, if it takes switching whatever their server is to a more user-friendly server, I think that the GoToMeeting has been great for us. I'm not saying it's perfect for everyone, but they may want to look into that so that people aren't getting booted off if it is a technical issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman DePoy. Is there any other miscellaneous motions, resolutions, or new business to come before the board? All right, if not, Attorney Bloomer, you have a handful of executive sessions for us.
And I've actually got some fairly good news. One item we can handle, I think, fairly quickly in open session, and one of the executive sessions is unnecessary at this point. So I think we can do the ARFF contract, or however it was labeled on the agenda. It looks like Chief Lovett, I think, is still on. If there's any questions, but it's a pretty straightforward request. As some of you may remember, we've been renegotiating the grant agreement with the state and the airport to provide the fire protection services that we typically provide. That's been going on for quite a while. We've already extended this, I think, twice, so this would be the third time that we're asking to extend it while we're continuing to iron out the details. I believe the last extension was through the end of February, and so the state has now suggested that we extended it another 3 months to give ourselves some sort of leeway, and it's mostly their process that bogs things down, because it seems like it has to go through several people, and they're not always on the same page. So what they're suggesting is a 3-month extension, so that would bring us to the end of May. And of course, they also couldn't get me a copy of the extension, but they've looked the same. So I think what I'm comfortable doing tonight is just asking for your, I'll give you what I would suggest for a motion here. The motion would be to authorize the mayor to enter into a 3-month extension of the existing grant agreement related to fire protection services for the airport on substantially the same terms as the existing agreement. And I do anticipate that it'll be the same agreement that we've been signing. If there's for some reason some new provision, then I'll bring it back to you. But this will allow us to sign in between meetings if it comes to us.
Thank you, Attorney Bloomer. So it has been seconded to extend the ARFF agreement for 3 additional months. Is there any discussion or debate on it?
I guess a question, a point of order. Do I need to suspend the rules?
Yes.
So I'll move that motion first.
Second.
Right, we have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
And then I'll move the motion as stated by the city attorney.
Second.
We have a motion that has been seconded. Is there further discussion or debate on this issue? Hearing and seeing none, but all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 And those opposed? Motion carries. Attorney Bloomer.
Okay, and so I think what we'll do here, again, to cut down on going from one room into the other, is do our 2 sets of, well, it'll be four total motions for the 2 executive sessions. And then actually I don't anticipate there would be any motion coming back into the public forum. So this will streamline that a little bit. And I don't know, Chief Kilcullen, are you still on?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So I think the first one will be you, and then we'll have Jim Rotundo. I'll give him a call and he can join us for the second one. All right, so the first motion would be to find that premature general public knowledge regarding pending litigation to which the city is a party would clearly place the city at a substantial disadvantage, because the discussion will divulge the city's strategy in such pending litigation and will include confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the city.
So moved.
Second.
A motion has been seconded. Would all those in favor please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Attorney Bloomer.
Okay, and then a motion to enter into executive session with the inclusion of the city attorney, police chief, treasurer, and mayor to discuss pending litigation as allowed under Title I, Section 313A1E and Title I, Section 313A1F.
Second, I'll move the motion, whatever number I'm on.
We have a second. Would all those in favor please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and then the second topic, the second lawsuit, the motions would be motion to find that premature general public knowledge regarding probable litigation to which the city would be a party would clearly place the city at substantial disadvantage because the discussion will divulge the city's strategy in such probable litigation and will include confidential attorney-client communications made for the purpose of providing professional legal services to the city.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion that's been seconded. Would all those in favor please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and then a motion to enter into executive session with the inclusion of the city attorney, interim commissioner of public works, treasurer, and mayor to discuss probable litigation as allowed under Title I, Section 313A1E and Title I, Section 313A1F.
So moved.
I'll move. Second.
We have a motion that's been seconded. Would all those in favor please indicate by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Attorney Bloomer, I believe that's it, correct?
Yes, yep, and I hope everybody got the email with the executive session link